you've got to come into the year with useful beliefs. As Chris Helder uses that term in his book, you believe that it is a person's responsibility to choose the mindset, the lies that they're going to let go of, and the truths that they're going to adopt moving in. So love to explore that with you.
Yeah, Tom, I was just thinking over the break because we're going to have a kickstart for our team shortly, and bring everyone together and have alignment. I was just thinking, there's no doubt that what you believe in becomes your world, whatever that is. If you believe that it's possible to have great health and a great business and a great relationship all simultaneously, that will become your world. If you think you've got to sacrifice, you've either got to be good at sales or good in relationship or maintain your health, but you've got to let the others go, that'll also become your reality. So I just thought, what are some of the useful beliefs? So I was just jotting down, I just jotted down on my phone, so I'll just refer to it here. Some of the things that I sort of came across. And I will credit the concept of useful beliefs, as you said, to Chris Helder, who I think is one of the great real estate speakers in the world, and we're proud to have him in Australia, based in Melbourne, I think, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Travels a lot, probably not so much nowadays. So I was just trying to think, again, you and I have been in real estate at a similar time, Tom. Some things that came to mind for me. One of them, which was a useful belief and a reality for me, is the competition is actually nowhere near as good as you think they are. I found this out through doing a number of conjunctions with people that I thought were legends, and I won't name any names, but there were people I thought, oh, wow, how lucky am I going to be? I've been appointed a conjunction with, Bill Smith or Marjorie Jones. And I kind of went into the process thinking that they were just so good and probably so much better than me. And yet I came through it thinking, my God, there were so many things that, they arrived late to meetings. They weren't giving insightful, they weren't preparing for meetings, they weren't that good negotiators, they weren't that good at managing expectations of vendors and buyers. So I think one of the mistakes we make, a couple of them I'll talk about up front. One of them is we think our competitors are extraordinarily good, especially if they're dominant market share. And in some instances, you've just mentioned a few people, the answer is they are. But in many instances, it's more about they've been the right person in the right place, they've built market share, they've built momentum, and kind of the market just gravitates towards them. But if you are extraordinary at what you do, you can pull back all that market share. Because, of course, before someone had dominant market share, they had no market share. They got into the industry. So that was number one. Number two is everybody feels the imposter syndrome. So I've felt this on a regular basis. I'm sure you do, Tom, and most high achievers I come across. Most people think, I wonder if I'm going to get found out. I actually don't think I'm that good, but I've got 40% market share and I did 2 million GCI, or I did 800,000 GCI. And it's almost like, I wonder when I'm going to get found out. I think that's a natural part of us managing our own expectations. And in often cases, the humility that we have as human beings, we kind of think, well, we're just kind of ordinary people. We know all our flaws and all our imperfections. And we think that everyone else out there is kind of perfect and without flaw, which of course they're not. So
you remember, John, at ARIC the year before last, or the last ARIC, Barbara Corcoran, when we did the interview, said at the start of every year, she goes, I get the best writers, the biggest ones come in, and she goes, they're nut jobs. They sort of said, I don't think I can fluke it again this year. These are people that were writing the best numbers, were having doubts as to why they were successful.
That's right. In fact, I think the story, the metaphor she used was they used to line up outside her door on the 1st of January, and her job was to pat her on the back and say, hey, come on, you can do it again. You're brilliant. And that's, oh, okay. Then they go and do it again and do more. So I think that's a really good one. It's just realize that just because you might have some self-doubts, they're probably not real. They're probably a part of your DNA, but you need to move beyond them. Next one was one of my favorite things I learned last year. The last 10% is where the magic always happens. The last 10% of a meeting, of a listing presentation, of a speech, of a coaching session is almost always. So, it's always about execution, next steps, and pulling it all together. So if I'm with a vendor for an hour and a half, a lot of people, they kind of like the last 10 minutes sort of just, sort of dribbles down, and there's not. If I just say, so Tom, let me just kind of bring together everything we've talked about, because I know you've only got 10 minutes to go. So when we set out, you said there were four things that were really important for you to achieve. Highest price within this certain time frame, X and Y. Now, hopefully I've gone through that. Now, let's just go through the strategy. I want to get your feedback. Are you comfortable with the possibility of an auction? How do you feel about me looking after you? Do you believe that marketing is going to be important? So your ability to tie together a coaching section, a listing presentation, a negotiation, because again, with a negotiation, they often say, oh, Tom, so look, I really think you're going to have to think about, raising your offer because you're at 1.2 and the vendor's at 1.3, and I don't think we're going to get it together at 1.2. So why don't you go away? And anyway, I've got to run to a meeting. And often, again, the worst few minutes is the last few minutes when that's actually the critical, rather than saying, so Tom, just for real clarity here, at 1.2, there is no deal. At 1.3, you'll own it net today, and in 6 weeks, you'll be living in it. I have 3 other appointments scheduled for this Saturday, and they're all very clear they can't buy it under 1.3. So I just want to be clear, transparent, and fair, because I know you and the family love it. I'd love to see you own it. So I'm just guiding you as to next steps. Here's a contract. I can, get your extended settlement an extra 3 weeks, but I need to know before Saturday whether or not you want to secure the home so we don't risk you losing it. So again, that sort of conversation, clarity, transparency. So really critical.
That is, John, that is absolutely gold, because I don't know why we haven't spoken about that before, where the end, whether it's a presentation, a conversation, a meeting, you seem to rush through, and the value of, it's funny, John. I remember at News Corp, I had a boss that said to me, and Tom, if there's ever a time you want to get something through that's sensitive and you feel like you're going to get a lot of tension, put it down at the end of the agenda, because what's happening is people are hurrying through, they're getting tired, and you're not going to get the tension that you'd have if it's early on in the meeting.
I like that sneaky corporate strategy. I'll remember that one. The third one, or maybe the last one for this particular session, is, I think maybe this came from Tony Robbins. I know I certainly learned it many years ago. It actually feels a bit more mystical. It could have been from a Robin Sharma, but it was the belief that you have everything you need right now to achieve everything you've ever wanted. So a lot of people play the when-then game. Well, when I've been in the industry 5 years, and when I move to a bigger brand, and when I get married, and when I do this, and when I get a better quality car, then I'm going to be successful. Right now, everyone that's listening, every real estate gym member, every MDA podcast person, you have everything you need. You have to call yourself on the BS, the rubbish excuses that you say that are procrastinating, when this happens, when that happens. If you want to be best on planet, best in market, dominate 2x your business, this year, you have everything already. Yes, there's always going to be another real estate gym course, and yes, you can attend ARIC, and that'll make you a bit better, but none of those things are prerequisites to you get started on that journey of excellence and hypergrowth. So again, just write it up on your desk. I have everything I need right now to achieve everything I've ever wanted in life, or to achieve every goal that I have on my goals list. Whatever is your version of that, don't BS yourself about the fact that there is something you're missing, because we will learn forever. And you and I are hopefully, great examples of that, because we love learning and we love, listening to interesting podcasts and seminars and webinars. But at the end of the day, all of your goals can be achieved with your current level of expertise that you have. And then hopefully you forever will keep building on that. So last 10% of the meetings, last 10% of everything is critical. Don't worry about the imposter syndrome. Everyone on the planet has it. Competition is not as strong as you think. You've got everything you need right now. And the last one I'll end with is, if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. If you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. There is nothing like, at the end of a listing presentation, if you don't say, Tom, Sula, how would you feel about working together? Because I would love, if possible, to get the go ahead so I can start calling buyers on my way back to the office. How do you feel? And then let silence do the heavy lifting. Let silence do the heavy lifting in 2021. Just give people the space to think, to contemplate, to almost feel uncomfortable. And I don't say that as a weird strategy, but you need someone. People are inherently uncomfortable with making decisions. Yeah. If you just jibber jabber and you feel the air and you feel the space and they don't have to make a decision, then it's kind of, they'll just push it off till another time, or time until someone else asks them for a decision. Whereas if you say, Tom and Sula, how would you feel about working together? I'd love to get started. And then you shut up, let silence do the heavy lifting. And then I reckon 8 out of 10, if you've done your job, 9 out of 10, if you've done a great job, they'll say, yeah, let's do it. It feels good to me. It feels like this is a good fit. There are a couple of other people we're going to call, but you've ticked all the boxes. You've answered all our questions. You've put a really great case forward. Let's get started. And so if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. So therefore, ask the question and give everyone an opportunity. Dr. Fred told me this. You must give them an opportunity to say yes. That's when funny enough, Tom, I remember when he first said it was back at Chicago 25 years ago, when I was talking about, what ended up being ARIC, which was really just bringing some of the top American speakers out. And I said, they won't want to, Fred, they'll be too busy. I won't be able to afford it. And he said, John, just give them a chance to say yes. And I thought, wow, okay, so that was a game changer. So there are just a few beliefs, affirmations, if you will, ideas you might want to carry into 2021. What about you? Because I know that you had some ideas and slides that you were thinking.
So John, finishing up on that, Scott Dudden, who you introduced me to through ARIC, and he's ended up becoming a very good friend because I like him. He's a very nice person. But I also noticed as a speaker, he's got this incredible ability to have great substance in his content. I think it's the fact that he's a psychologist, and he went off to Harvard last year before COVID, and he did a course on difficult conversations. And when I was in Byron Bay over Christmas, we caught up and we did a video stream together. And Johnny talked about what you just discussed, but he gave it a framework. And he said, one of the things that came out of Harvard about people that are good negotiators, good people that are good at conflict resolution, good at having difficult conversations, on a graph, if you look at empathy and assertiveness, they score high on both of those. They both can exist. You can be empathetic and assertive at the same time. Whereas if you're too much on the empathetic, you can get walked over all the time. If you're too much on the assertive, it's just got too much commission breath, high pressure, intimidation. You've talked about it before, John, the ability to be soft hard. I think that's what he's referring to. But it's an important skill in real estate, whether you're asking for the business at a listing presentation, or whether you're having a conversation about someone's price being out of whack, or whether a buyer is playing games and you need to bring it to a head. Sooner or later, the best agents cross that bridge. They get very good at having crucial conversations, but they don't look like they've got a sledgehammer out.
Yeah, I love that, Tom, and please say hi to Scott. He was brilliant when he spoke at ARIC a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah. From Byron Bay. I couldn't believe that. I remember saying to him, I'm not sure whereabouts in the world you exist, but we've got this conference on the Gold Coast. And he said, well, I'm about half an hour from the Gold Coast, which is cool. I'm just thinking some of the skills to add to the beliefs. Some of the skills for 2021 to be mega successful. Managing expectations, critical, really critical. Difficult conversations, you've just said it, brilliant. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Knowing that when you create that space, and it feels easy to jump in, and well, you don't have to decide now. Well, why don't you go away and think about it, call me back. Again, never push someone into doing something that's not good for them, whether they're a seller or a buyer. But if it's right for them and they want the home and they can afford the home, but their ego is saying, maybe I can sort of pull it back and buy it for a bit less, and maybe I need to be a better negotiator in my life. Let's just help you get through that decision. And I love that one, empathetic and assertive at the same time, which is like soft hard. Really, and the intent is the third one, is coming from the right place. My job is to help you find a home you love and secure it. That's my job as an agent. And if you're selling, my job is to help find the best buyer in the marketplace, get them to the best price, and then close the deal so you can move forward. So again, that's like my intent is to get the best outcome and do what I'm paid for. But my intent is always also to close the deal so you can achieve your goals. And your goal is to move on, to move interstate, to get a bigger home, a smaller home. So interesting, yeah. And what were the other? I know you sort of were talking about some slides that you did.
So yesterday, John, we did a presentation to the gym members about planning 2021. And what I want to do is just run through 8 quick questions that I encourage every agent to ask of themselves before they go all in 2021. And that is a reflection. You talk about that, reflecting on what happened. This came, John, from Mel Robbins. Very vulnerable. I was listening to her on a video and she said, my life in 2020, I lost my TV show. I had a book contract taken away. All my speaking, which she was doing 100 events, went down the drain because of COVID. So she goes, it's been a very difficult period for me. And that was very vulnerable to hear someone sort of, and I can relate to it because John, both you and I, we don't speak like her, but we know that life changed last year with face-to-face events. And then she said, these are 7 questions that you should ask of yourself before you move into the new year. And I'm quickly going to go through them. Number 1, what were the highlights of your year? What were the highlights of the year? And one of the reasons she said ask that question is because we've got cognitive bias. We seem to always look at what went wrong in the last year. And she made a suggestion, go to your mobile phone, look at your camera roll, and you'll be shocked at how many things that happened. It's a good prompter to look at your camera roll, how many things that happened that were actually pretty good. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, what did you learn about yourself in the last 12 months? What did you learn about yourself in the last 12 months? John, I asked myself that question and I worked out that I actually didn't like the lifestyle that I thought was fun and exciting and running around and going on planes and speaking. I thought, hang on a second. It's not as good because if you're not sleeping at your own home and you've got to wake up and you've got to eat food that's always external, hey, I realized that I actually like not traveling that much. So that's something that I learned. Number 3, what were the most challenging things in the last 12 months and what was the lesson that you got from it? I reckon that's a great question, you know? Number 4, what lesson did you learn that you're going to take into 2021? And John, she spoke about people pleasing. Even though she said, I know I shouldn't do it, I realized that I still spend a lot of my time saying no to myself because I'm saying yes to others, right? Number 5, what one thing won't you go back to? What one thing won't you go back to? Number 6, what one thing did you start last year that you will continue? And number 7, what were you most proud of last year? And I think, John, when you do this inner work and ask yourselves these questions, you actually end up finding, hey, there's a lot of learnings that I can put into 2021 that came out of 2020.
Yeah, no, I agree, Tom. And Mike Sheargold, when you just said that many years ago, Mike Sheargold said to me, what are you going to start, stop and continue in 2021? Well, back then it was probably 1981, but what are you going to start? Now, it could be in business, could be not, it could be you're going to start leaving that space at the end of the closing question. And no matter how uncomfortable it is, you're going to leave enough space until they give you a response. That could be start. It could be you're going to start a new course. You're going to join real estate gym. Could be you're going to do
Johnny,
45
can I give
minutes.
it a big plug because we've actually got it open till the 25th of January where we take our intake for this year. So anyone that is not on, come on, because we're like everyone, we're in recruitment mode at that start of the year. So, and John.
And I'll give the Matt Steinway plug again. Matt Steinway said it's the best learning real estate experience in Australia and it should be 10 times the price. So don't put the price up 10 times because I know a lot of people get value from it. But that was from the guy who, as you've just accurately said, is probably going to be number 1 in the country this year. So anyone that hasn't joined the gym, make that one of your start. Be it the physical gym as well. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but also just real estate gym. And this is not a paid advert. I just love the work you do, Tom. Orange Theory, you go to Orange Theory, and I thought about it because I bumped you the other day and you'd either just going there or just finished in the inner west. And I was just thinking, and I started reading up about Orange Theory, and as you may or may not know, they're huge in the States and they're growing rapidly and they've got venture capital coming in and they're going to be like an F-45. They've become a bit of a global legend. And I thought, why is it so successful? And from what you told me, Tom, I think you were saying that that it's around technology and you get to measure everything. You get to measure your heart rate, compare it with last time, compare it to target. And I just thought in real estate, again, measure what you do and as close to real time as you can. No point looking at the end of the year and saying, okay, my commission was down 0.2%. You should be looking at it weekly, minimum monthly, but preferably weekly. So days on market, option clearance rates, average commission, average sale price, those things. because I think that's why Orange Theory, because there's thousands of gym options around, but the reason they're storming is they're putting technology in place that allows their members to track in real time, actually, I think. So I thought that was good. The last thing, and thanks to those 7 questions, they were awesome. The last thing I just wanted to mention was a little story I read. I don't think I've shared it with you, Tom, but over the break, about the British rowing team. Did I tell you about that?
No.
So the British rowing team, they'd won prior to Sydney, where they won the gold. This was for the first 8. Their previous goal was 1912. So they waited nearly a century. So clearly it wasn't their gun sport, and they were struggling. 5 or 6 years before, in the mid-90s, they got a new coach, and then he brought in a system or a philosophy. And his philosophy was, we do nothing that doesn't make the boat go faster. So he said, I'm thinking about this in business. How many decisions do you make that don't make your sales grow or your customers better? You make them just for whatever reason. And I just thought about, so their catchphrase was, will it make the boat go faster? So someone said, I think we should get a new nutritionist in. And he'd say, will it make the boat go faster? Yeah, it actually will, because it'll make us better. Great. I think we should go on to this event. Will it make the boat go faster? No, it won't really. Okay, I'm going to the event. So he used that as the question that he asked around everything they did. And he said for 5 years, they did nothing 24/7 that didn't make the boat go faster. So should we go to training today? Of course, that'll make the boat go faster. Should we meet with an engineer and see if there's any better design we could do? Yes, it'll make the boat go faster. So I just thought, think about your business. So will what you're doing, will this new piece of software, will this new networking group, will this new coach, will this new real estate gym, will it help me make more sales? If the answer is yes, pin your ears back and go for it. If the answer is not sure or no, I'd say just focus on the things that are going to help you grow your business. Will joining a gym, going for 60 minutes exercise 3 days a week, make you better selling? Yes. So do it. Tick. Easy answer. So that would be, I thought that was one of the things that I got over the break that I thought was very useful.
A Boston consultant that was doing some work for News Corp many years ago, when he first came in, I had to do the briefing to him on real estate. So these external consultants come in, they're asking a lot of questions, they go through the whole executive team. And I've been used to them over the years. I often feel like you're just giving them information and then they just sort of put it together in a PowerPoint document and they show it to the board. But this guy was very different. He said at the end of it, after 2 hours, he said, Tom, based on what you've said, it sounds like the real estate industry has a core objective, singular focus to get the listing, because it appears if you get the listing, everything else moves on from there. And as you were speaking, I thought to myself, that's probably the question you've got to be asking yourself, is what I'm doing right now. So you put on a post with you, sitting at Bondi Beach, having a meal. Will this get me a listing, right? You align it. Will it get you a listing? Probably not. Having a photo, socializing at Bondi Beach probably won't go towards getting a listing. But it's very good to link it back to your core objective in business. Is this aligned with what I'm all about,
And it really, Tom, just showed what an extraordinary result, 100 years without a medal, up against, people like Germany and America and these incredible, sort of powerhouses in that sport. Including Australia, by the way. Australia has always been one of the great rowing countries in the world. But will this make the boat go faster? It talks about laser focus, focusing on things that are going to help your productivity. And we're going back to Dr. Fred, Tom, who introduced to us concept at the very first ARIC, which was dollar productive activity. So in a sense, that's around, are you focused on, is 90% of your world dollar productive activities, or is 20%, which is probably a more realistic number for most? 20% of the calls you make, the appointments you have, the hours you invest in the world of real estate is at least 80%, 90% preferably focused on things that are going to get a listing or sell a listing. One of the two. They're the only two things, to obtain listings and sell listings. And in the midst of that, create raving fans by doing it beautifully to both sides of the transaction. So, hopefully there's some good stuff for our members there. How do they get into the real estate gym if they haven't joined yet?
Realestategym.com.au. Go to the URL.